I mean, I think our team's getting better. I've sat up here and said this in front of you guys all season, that this is a journey for us, and we're trying to piece together a lot of returners with newcomers, and that's what the season's all about. And, I think our non-conference was difficult, and I think we had some really tough losses that taught us some really great lessons that we're now seeing the fruit of, what you hope happens when you go through hard moments and you go through some failure. You learn, you grow, you get better. And I thought a lot of the lessons that we learned in the non-conference have really showed up in two really tough conference games to start the year, in defeating North Texas and obviously South Florida at home, a place they don't lose very much. And so I'm really proud of our team. I'm proud of our coaching staff. I'm proud of the whole group in terms of how we are just staying focused on ourselves. We're staying focused on how we can improve and keep getting better. And that's honestly what we need to do. We're only 2 games into the conference play. It's a long road. We're about to play UAB, who's really good. And I feel like I'm gonna sit up here every week and say we're about to play so and so, and they're really good. So it's just one step at a time for us. But I do think it's important to reflect on, as a coach, when you're focused on a journey and you see your players go through that journey with you and grow from it, that's really cool. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about for us, is that we are growing and we are buying in and we are believing. And because of all those things, we're getting better as a team. And we have to have that same approach today in practice, to continue to grow and get better.
All right. Hey, Coach. These are questions from Stephen Giles, ESPN Plus.
Okay.
Like you said, big road win against South Florida. During that game, your top 6 players saw increased minutes, and you shortened the rotation with them. He was curious if is this more of a strategy due to injury, or was there a different strategy behind it?
Well, I think in games like that, of that magnitude, oftentimes as a coach, you just lean on kids with the most experience. It doesn't mean that that's what the rotation will be for the rest of the year. I hope it's not. I mean, we can't survive that way. But in games of that magnitude against teams that are that good, oftentimes as a coach, you just kind of rely on the players that have the most experience. And that's what I felt like we did in that moment. The players that have been most consistent for us. Oftentimes it comes down to, having players on the floor that what's going to happen, and you feel pretty confident in the decision making and what they will do. And so I just felt like in that environment, in that type of game, we had to make those decisions. But certainly, again, we're only 2 games into conference play, and it's going to be a really long road. And so that will not remain our rotation for the rest of conference season for sure.
And with the start of conference play, it's both a question for you as well as Kiana. Does conference play change your approach from a coaching perspective as well as a player's perspective?
I guess I'm not really sure exactly the context of that question. I mean, every day, like, we're focused in improving and becoming a better team. I'm not sure, how we would think of things differently other than, I think the only conversation we had at a team was that we're in conference play and there are no gimme games on the schedule. Everybody's really, really good in this league. And, we have to worry about ourselves and how we continue to improve. So, I mean, this is a really bad answer to that question, but I don't even, that doesn't even go in my mind how I would do things differently. Like, I do things how I am.
And no, I think we come in, practice every day, and we come in, we compete and try to get better every day, in and out. There's no difference between conference play and non-conference play. Every game is a game you're trying to win.
And last one here from Steven. What is the scouting report and your expectations for UAB?
Well, as I've stated, in my opener, I think UAB is really good. And we've been going against them forever. I've known their coach for a long time. I think he does a great job, and I think their personnel is what makes them really good this year. They have two very, very good guards who are dynamic, and then they have so many shooters around that just space. And so they are hard to guard because you can't bring a lot of help. You have to be able to contain off the drive. Everybody from pretty much every spot can shoot, which again makes it hard because you're relying on one-on-one defense. With that being said, I think, we also have to put pressure on them to guard us as well. And so I think it's going to be important for us to, be aggressive and, execute offensively at the pace that we did 2 nights ago against South Florida. I thought, that was our best game of our transition offense, and that's something that we've been working on pretty significantly in practice, trying to get, just some easier points on the board as we grow as an offensive team. And I thought a lot of the work that we've put in showed, and I think that's going to be important for us to be able to put pressure on UAB too, because, when they can come down and they can run their stuff and they're comfortable and they can score, they're really, really good. But if we can wear them down and, make them have to guard us and make them go up and down, that gives us a better opportunity to win the game.
Kiana, you had 2 of the biggest plays in overtime. What did the coach say to you when you went on the court in those final minutes in overtime, and kind of what's going through your mind when you come back on the floor?
Before we even got into overtime, they tried to throw a lob play, and all I knew was we can't let them score it. We cannot let them score. My entire team, we all played great defense. Going into overtime, we had a huddle. We talked about making sure that if they're going to score, we're going to make it hard for them, and that we were going to give it our all and put everything onto the floor.
How about that cut down the backside where you got the layup?
Yeah, it was a great read by Deja. It's something that we worked on in practice multiple times and something that we've been working on and trying to get better at.
You play very physical teams inside. How do you keep your composure? What does the coach say to you to keep the composure? Coach, you can jump in here too if you want to.
It was definitely a physical game and one of our harder games to try to keep composure. But I think overall we just stay focused and stay in the moment and remember that we're trying to do this for our team and we can't lose our heads or else it affects the rest of the team. It might affect the rest of the night.
Yeah, I think our team, we're very passionate. We have players that, really care about how we play and, representing this university, and they really care about winning and wanting to be great. And sometimes, that passion is a really great thing, and sometimes it can be a really bad thing if we don't control it the way that we need to. And I think that's a big thing that I've learned as a coach, that the more in control and calm that I am, the more in control and calm that they are. So that's something we've been working on together. Is just, like Key said, staying in the moment, staying focused on what the next play is. We can't control the things that are happening outside of our huddle. We can't control what's happening outside of, our game plan and what we're supposed to do. And the more that we can just, maintain our composure by focusing on us, the better we are. And there were some really big moments at South Florida where if we allowed that moment to take control of the game, we wouldn't have won, but we didn't. Our kids were so resilient. They were so calm, in the face of pressure, and they just went out and did what we're supposed to do. And I think as a coach, when you look at your team and that's what they do, you feel like, man, we've prepared them really well. And they're doing a great job.
Coach, piggyback off of that. Earlier in the season when there were things that didn't go well, you talked about not following the scouting report. It seems the last 2 games you've done really well at that, particularly on the defensive end. Kind of talk a little bit about that for us.
I think it's just growth. We've said all year long that we believe that we are an elite defensive team, but it still takes time to put that together because we do have, some different pieces in there. Liv, Smitty, who are playing big minutes, they're new in the program. Jewel, they're new in the program. And so, it takes time to kind of get that chemistry on both ends of the floor. And, I think defensively we felt like we were closer to it earlier, but I think, now just experience and time and being battle tested. Again, we've played some really, really good teams in the non-conference that, when you look at it on paper, you look at the loss and you're like, dang, man, like that stunk. But when I look at it, I'm like, man, we're going to get a lot better because we're learning about ourselves. And we have. And I thought, again at South Florida, I thought there was moments in North Texas, but really in South Florida, we were really connected defensively. Like our help was unbelievable. Because we weren't perfect, and nobody is perfect. But if you can play with urgency and you can help each other and you can communicate, that helps you cover each other. And I thought we were incredible. And honestly, all that starts with Key. There's a lot of players on this team that maybe get a little bit more shine than her because of their stats or because of their role. But Key is a huge piece in what we're doing, especially on the defensive end, because she covers for everybody. She flies around. She plays with, the highest level of urgency. Her communication is off the chart. And I really feel like she is our anchor defensively. And because of what she is doing, it is helping everybody get better. And, we can go down on a court where we're not supposed to win and play the best defense of the year.
Coach, after an emotional win like that, how do you balance that emotion going into another big game with UAB?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's something that, I'm going to talk. We're going to go into film here in a few minutes, and that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. That game is over. It was great. And, we'll learn our lessons from that. But we have another big game on Sunday that is just as big because every game in conference play is big. And so it is going to be really important for us to have a mature outlook of it. Like that's in the past. Today is the only thing we can focus on. We talked about that after a game, just understanding this is a big win, but it's just another step on what our journey and where we're trying to go. And if we can look at it, I think in that type of context, we can really just kind of hone in on what we're trying to do this season, which again is get better every day, improve so we can be the best team we can be by March.
Coach, obviously a really great start for you guys in conference play. What's made you the most proud of this team over these last couple of games?
I think just their response and their resiliency, especially, if I don't like to look back a lot, but you look back at, losing that game against Davidson at home and just a really disappointing performance from our team. And to be able to, take that and be disappointed and be heartbroken and to turn around, after a break and very quickly have to get to the toughest part of the season, which is conference play. I've just been really impressed with, our kids' mentality and, they don't waver. They believe in, the messages that I give them. They believe in themselves and, to get from maybe what felt like the lowest of the low and to turn around and be able to play at a really high level over our first two games, that's been really impressive to me. And I think that starts, again, with our leadership. That's Deja and JC, who are two captains, but that's also Key. That's also, Tracy. That's also Smitty. Like, you got some players that have really stepped up, and they're starting to coach themselves. So now when I go into a huddle, I have to tell them to stop talking so that I can speak, which is great because they're actually saying the things I'm going to say. And so that's where you get proud as a coach because there's some, we're connected. And that means our messages are going the right way. That means they're receiving the messages the right way. And we're starting to get on really the same page as a team. And that's what I think is really cool.
Yeah, I was here last week for the big win with Imani Smith. Just such a great game over North Texas. What have you liked out of her recently?
I think she's just elevated. She's elevated her play some, but she's more so elevated her leadership and just her mentality. And honestly, that's something I talked to her about maybe about a month ago. That I felt like we needed more from her and we could get more from her. And I think, as a new player coming in, she was just kind of searching for, where do I fit? What do they need from me? Like, how do I not disrupt things? But I want her to be a disruptor. You know what I mean? I want her to come in and be a key part of this team because that's what we brought her here for. And I think she's really starting to embrace how important her role is. Again, not just on the court because that is huge. She's becoming one of our best defenders. She's a versatile guard for us. I mean, so on and so forth. But I think it's more so her competitiveness, her like just her defensive, like she goes out there and she thinks we're going to stop everybody, any point, anytime. And that's good. We need that. We need that. Key's like that too. Like we need people like that. And so I think that's been the biggest thing for her, just elevating how she plays, elevating how she leads, holding her teammates accountable, using her voice, and I think everybody has elevated with her.
This last one can be for both of you guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say on it. I saw the video last night on Twitter of you after the big win, just super enthusiastic, and the whole team rallies behind it. It seems like you guys just have such a great dynamic going as a group. Can you speak to that and just kind of talk about what it is like to, be with this team throughout conference play and just the general vibe that you guys all have together?
You want to start?
I'll start. I love playing with my team. It's an amazing feeling. They're all energetic and all contributing to celebrations and hopefully not as many defeats. But we all come in, we all celebrate and celebrate each other. It's an amazing feeling to play with this team.
I would say to start the year, we had really great chemistry from the beginning. And I know that's something that they've said, that they really enjoy each other. But I think what's impressed me is as we've gotten into the season and hard times have hit, they've really stayed together. And they've also stayed with us as a coaching staff, because that's also what happens, right? Everybody's happy early. Things are going well. We've recruited really great kids that get along. And then losses happen and rotations happen. And, we have been able to kind of weather that storm. And it hasn't been perfect. We've gone through some ups and downs, and, we've had to hold people accountable to certain things. And but we've responded. And I think everything that we've done together. And we found a way to take everything that has happened and move forward. And I think, again, we're really connected right now. And I think that's because we've gone through those steps where we trust each other as a group. And I'm not just talking about the players. I'm talking about the staff. I'm talking about all of us. And we're going to hit hard times again, and we're going to be tested with that again. So it's not all, sunshine and daisies all the time. Like, more hard stuff is coming. But I do think that we've put the work in on the front side so that when those hard times come again, we can trust each other through those moments and continue to stay connected.
To kind of piggyback off of that question, in the game against South Florida, you said at the end of the game, you're like, this group played elite Charlotte women's basketball. As a coach, from a coaching perspective, what does that look like for you?
An elite Charlotte women's basketball team is a team that doesn't back down, a team that plays with heart, toughness, resilience, that leads themselves. Again, talking about going into those huddles, and, they're talking about things. We had one of the last plays, we're up multiple possessions, and I go in the huddle, and you probably remember this, Key. I start saying something, and Money Smith goes, whatever, we're switching everything, coach. I said, oh, we are? She said, yeah, we're switching everything. And I said, well, good, because that's what I was going to say too, so great. But that's just another example. Like, they were already like doing that. And so a team that leads themselves. But I think the heart, I think the toughness, I think the resiliency, the best teams we have at Charlotte play like that. Our championship team played like that. And I'm starting to see some characteristics of that team in this team. And I think, so when I say an elite Charlotte women's basketball teams, those are some of the things that I think of.
And for Kiana, obviously you had double digits against South Florida. Can you just talk about what you've been working on to improve your game this season?
It all started in practice. We do post guard individuals, and I get down there. And a lot of my stuff is either back to the basket or face up at the basket, getting downhill and working on just shots that come naturally in the offense, not anything too crazy.
Obviously, you said that every game matters, and even having a tough non-conference, it didn't matter going into conference play. But has it been easier to adjust to a new league since having such a tough non-conference schedule?
Well, I think that's why I have a tough non-conference schedule every year. I want to prepare our team for what I think is going to be really hard, which is conference play, and obviously being an American and being at a higher level, and all these teams are very elite, and so I do feel like that. I feel like when we've come in and we knew it was going to be hard, we've seen hard things. We've made mistakes, we've had failures, and when you do those things, it helps you grow. And so I do feel like our non-conference was set up fairly well for us to be able to come and compete against some really good teams.
Thank you.
Can I just say one? Sorry, I'll just say one more thing about Key, since you asked. I mean, I think Key's improvements started in the spring of last year. Some of y'all have been at these press conferences. I talked very real about how we had to get better from last year. Regardless of the circumstances that caused our season last year, we had to get better. And I challenged our returners really hard, and Key was one of the ones that I challenged. And she came in and she worked every single day. Her and Coach Kate, who is her position coach, they worked every day, and I think Key gets a lot of credit for the work she's put in, but also her mentality. You look at her and you think she's not a banger, but Key actually is pretty good when her back's to the basket, and she, had to embrace that. She had to listen to me say, like, hey, Key, I actually think some of your best shots are when your back is to the basket. And to her credit, she embraced that. And I think because of, her work ethic, because of her mentality, and because of her willingness to be challenged by this coaching staff, that's why she's improved a lot. And that's why she's going to continue to improve a lot and be a really key part to what we're doing. So I think, her answer was good, but I thought it was a very humble answer. She's worked her tail off, and it's fun to see a player that's put that much in get that much out of it.
Key, I'm assuming you're right-handed, but it seems like you go to the left and you're very successful with the left. Does that come from the work you're putting in, or is that just what the defense is giving you?
It's a lot of what the defense is giving me, but a lot of it is just creating more with my left hand. This season, I've been focusing more actually on going on my right hand, and if you watch a couple of my other games, you realize that I'm starting to go to my right hand a little bit more, and it's starting to improve, and it's all starting in practice.
Couple of good baseline jumpers too, look like. Mm-hmm. Coach, have you seen a team this year that's similar to UAB, or is anybody you compare them to?
That's a good question. Let me think for one sec. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think they have some similarities in terms of Davidson, and that they're like they're different in terms of what they run, but a motion team that can spread you out, that makes it difficult to guard. So I think those are some of the challenges that are similar, although they don't do the same thing. And so obviously going into this matchup, just being able to be a lot better with our one-on-one defense is going to be really important.
Thank you to Coach Consuegra and Kiana Rembert. Charlotte back in action Sunday at 1 o'clock against UAB.